Thank you for taking time to chat today. We are talking about Baghead, which is sort of the new uh, British horror that's coming out this week. In it, you play a character called Iris. What was it about her when you read the script that you connected to and made you want to play her?
I mean, I think the interesting thing was there was actually a lot about her that is dissimilar to me. She she isn't quite sure what direction she's going in life. I well, actually she loves art, and that I did connect on. She loves her art, but I think she feels quite lost in where she wants to, what direction she wants to go in her life. And she hasn't really had a support network around her throughout her childhood. The character Katie, played by Ruby, is kind of her only form of kind of stability, I think. And so with that, she has this kind of desperation for a need of purpose, and which, I mean, I think we can all relate to a certain extent. But I guess that was what I had to lean on in terms of why on earth she decides to keep going ahead with the demon in the basement.
Yeah, it's not your average inheritance, is it?
No, it's
It's a
not,
bit
is it? No.
yeah. I think one of the original scripts when they were adapting it from the short, they made the character, I think she was a lot older. She was sort of like late 20s, early 30s. What do you think it is about making Iris, more youthful that really works in this scenario?
I mean, I think there's something to that bridge in life when you're going from being a child to suddenly you're being thrown out into the adult world, that I think is just challenging, full stop, but especially with the background and where she has come from. And like I say, the lack of kind of like support around her. And so I think this idea being brought into her life and brought into her story, of there being this kind of like opportunity in a sense, but also opportunity to kind of confront her past in a way, is an interesting place to put it, in that bridge between childhood and being thrown out into the adult world, where you have to survive and kind of getting eaten up by the wolves of life. And so I think placing it there makes for a more kind of like logical bridge.
And I think starring in a horror film, it's kind of a rite of passage for a lot of actors. Is there a sort of a different skill set that you need when you're working in this genre to others?
Yes, and I learned a lot shooting. It was very much a learning job for me. Number one, I'd never led a feature, and number two, those horror elements are really difficult, actually, because I think um, us as like actors as a whole, and then but I can definitely speak for myself. Like, I lean on the reality and the instincts and the emotionality of the characters, and that's kind of what grounds me. And actually, there's so many times where you have to surrender to the fact that sometimes a lot of what's happening doesn't make sense, because you're slightly surrendering to the genre of horror, which is it's almost a given that every lead character has to be slightly infuriating for the audience to watch, and equally just as infuriating to play in moments, because of that inevitability with it being a horror film. So yeah, that was actually a major challenge. But I actually learned a lot on the job. I remember, having to make yourself scared of things that aren't scary. And it sounds like so obvious, but actually I find that stuff harder than doing like a really long scene. But actually the stuff I learned doing that film really helped for my next film, to be able to do that and get your body to like a physical place to be able to kind of like let that carry you. And basically it's just about running on the spot and jumping on the spot and holding your breath and just making yourself really out of breath, and then you're pretty solid.
Fair enough. That's a handy tip for other actors. And something that I really enjoy about this story is it's very intimate. So often films and TV shows, it's massive casts with characters, but I think there's only what, three or four of you. What was
Yeah.
that experience like working on? I imagine it was obviously a much smaller set than some of the other things that you've done.
Yeah, I think it was nice, because I'm used to, obviously, The Witcher. It's a massive cast, and there's a large chunk of people that you never even meet. And so on that, it was really nice to sort of like really get to know everyone like individually as people. And me, Ruby, and Jeremy really had like a lot of fun in Berlin and really bonded out there together. And I think we all really like hold, you know, it holds a like special place for us, that experience, because we really like lent on each other and just like had fun with each other. And that was really nice to kind of like build those strong bonds like off camera as well.
As I'm digging into the themes of the film, it's obviously there's this demon in the basement which grants people the opportunity to see their departed loved ones. It's something that, it's always kind of around in the horror genre. I mean, most recently Talk to Me did something
Mm-hmm.
sort of similar. What do you think it is about this kind of story that fascinates audiences and makes it keep coming back?
I mean, I think we as humans, like we can't help be we're very curious creatures, and we anything surrounding death, like that's an answer that I don't think like people necessarily. I mean, obviously everyone has their different views or beliefs or whatever, but there isn't like a straightforward answer for a lot of people. And so I think that's always like an area which scares people and um makes people, it's like that anything in that feels like in the unknown is like we love that as people, I think. And so I think there's definitely an element of that which is like always bound to kind of like fascinate people and make people think and um question that kind of topic, I guess. And also we just like familiarity. I think that there's something that's familiar in those kind of in a lot of horror films, leaning in that world or topic. So yeah, I'd say that.
I know, you mentioned, you touched on earlier, you've got another big film coming out, you've got Baghead's out now. Later on in the year, you've got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I guess this is 2024 is going to be a big year for yourself. I mean, what was working on Planet of the Apes like? Because like you say, this Baghead was sort of playing pretend, but I imagine on that film it was playing pretend like times a thousand.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I say I'm so glad that I got to like do my learning on Baghead and like figure that kind of stuff out more so than ever. And then like it prepped me to be able to deal with apes, and which was the best shooting experience. And yeah, I mean for that I had to do my scenes with the actors in the suits, and then they would be taken out and I'd have to do it to air. Nothing was there. And so I mean that was the biggest stretch of like imagination. But I think having learned the certain stuff about like even making yourself scared and everything like that was so good that I got to do that on Baghead. And because obviously like you say there was so much of that shooting apes. So yeah, I'm so excited for people to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. I mean, I loved I've loved the previous three, so I can't wait to see it. We complete digression, but we liken our cat to Caesar. She was very sort of inquisitive like that, so it's got a special place. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that. But going back to Baghead, it's going to be out in cinemas. I kind of feel like cinema is the perfect place for any film, but particularly horror because you're already in that dark room. But why should people take the chance and go out and see this film?
I mean, I think it's if you feel like getting jumped, which I feel like everyone kind of like, um, I mean, not everyone, but it's kind of fun to scare yourself sometimes and like go with your friends and and um and have your popcorn and just like try and scare yourself. I mean, I did it the other day. I went and saw and I just felt like being scared and being challenged. So if you want to be challenged, there's a lot of jump scares in this film. So go there and take on the challenge of not being jumped, but you will be
Exactly.
jumped.
Exactly, definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time. I wish you best of luck with this film and with Apes later in the year.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.